welcome for another brilliant and truthful news installment into everyone's favorite news channel, Fox News.
Today we have an exiting guest, Ben Shapiro, Canada's #1 environmental advocate and PhD expert in metaphysical environmentalism. He is here to discuss Canada's newly introduced Greenhouse Gas Pollution Pricing Act put through by our glorious leader Justin Trudeau. Shapiro is known for his debunking skills and how he awesomely destroys fake news with facts and logic. Say hello to our guest.
Why hello Fox News reporters TF2 Spy and Wojak. Did you know that fake news is on the rise? Well, unfortunately such tragedies are also affecting our environmental efforts. Many fake news outlets such as those seen on Facebook, and even by some of our own politicians such as Doug Ford have consistently denied how efforts such as the Greenhouse Gas Pollution Pricing Act will aid in curbing our CO2 efforts. Their main argument is that promoting and enacting these policies will hurt our industries and make them not competitive. But funnily enough, many of our provinces, with the most well-known example being Quebec, have a competitive form of control that is legally acceptable known as the CO2 cap and trade system, where companies are each allocated a limited amount of CO2 that they are allowed to emit within either a year or month, and of which can be traded with other companies to have more CO2 usage allowed to them, stimulating the economy. Quebec companies have already traded CO2 permits with California, showing the success of this method. But even our generic federal plan put in place in non-abiding provinces has been misrepresented, I am sad to say.
Misrepresented? Please explain further, Mr. Shapiro, destroyer of lies, and debunker of fake news. We wish to know what you speak of.
Well, for instance, the Conservative Party and in general conservative news outlets on social media have been spreading lies and misinformation on Trudeau's proposed, and now enacted CO2 taxes policies. In the provinces where a CO2 tax has been set up as opposed to a trade and cap system, claims are very often made that the taxes targets workers and other low to middle earning families for the most part by hurting their more exploitable earnings via gas prices. However, this is far from the truth, as the policies actually target big companies, and to a lesser extent the top 30% of the Canadian populace in terms of wage earnings due to them having less efficient big homes and cars. This does not actually hurt the common man because rebates are directly made from the earnings of the carbon tax that is given back to families who use less carbon in comparison to the size of their family, with provinces differing in how much the common man earns from this progressive and distributive tax system. Some provinces' middle wage earners can get an average benefit of only $40. But this can range all the way up to an extra $200 saving in comparison to how much money they spend on carbon in a month by things such as car gas or house heating, for example. Yet these fake news sources conveniently ignore this fact from the very beginning, despite it being made clear that the tax system would not be exploitative to normal Canadians. As seen on this rough display I prepared for this interview, you can see which of the three main groups in this issue are affected and to what extent. Long story short, this law has from the beginning been lied to by these groups and can be debunked from simply reading any trustworthy news source such as here on Fox News or the CBC. Another excuse these lobby groups in conjunction with the false exploitation argument is that they do not work, but even early predictions show that these carbon policies can help Canada very early on reduce its carbon footprint goal by 41% in accordance to our 2030 promised goal to the Paris Agreement in 2016. This percentage is expected to rise as well as our tax policy becomes more and more heavy, which will in turn also yield a higher rebate to the working class, I will add. I think I can sufficiently say with all of this facts and logic that I just epically destroyed the fake news.
Wow, thanks Ben. Very cool.